Hello everybody, welcome back to Tom Reads Things. My name is Tom. I hope you're all very well. It has been 5,000 years since I last did a video. Many apologies for that. I've just been really busy with work and I actually have been having a lovely time just reading and not thinking too much about what I want to say about the books, but just having a lovely time reading. So yeah, what I thought I would do today is a very belated January wrap-up. So before I crack on with the books that I read in January, I wanted to talk to you about a book that I read at the end of December, which I didn't really get a chance to talk about in any of my other videos, and that is The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. I always want to say Karen Walker Thompson. So this book I had in my TBR box for such a long time, and I was kind of thinking, oh, should I read it? Shouldn't I? Am I really in the mood for it? I hadn't heard great things about it, but the blurb sounded really interesting, so I thought, do you know what, now's the time, end of the year, I'm going to give it a go and see what I think of it. And I'm actually really glad that I picked it up. So this book is about a university town on the west coast of the United States, and it follows the story of a group of students, mainly to begin with, who there's one student in particular that falls asleep and they can't wake them back up again, and all of a sudden the students in the university campus start falling asleep and they cannot be revived, they can't be woken up. And then it's this kind of sleeping disease spreads throughout the community and the kind of wider communities around that area as well, and everyone really starts to panic, and it's all a bit Armageddon-y, to be honest, and apocalyptic. So I went into this thinking, is it really my kind of thing? Am I really interested in that subject matter? Am I really interested in that location and that kind of time period and things like that? But actually, I'm really glad that I picked it up. It's quite pacey, which was really good. It follows the stories of lots of different families or groups of people as they come to terms with what's happening in their community and the different ways that they react to it as well. It's quite like nerve-wracking, a bit, you know. It's got, I don't know if anyone's read The Wonder by Emma Donoghue, but that was really like, I literally like, oh my god, what is going to happen? That was a little bit like this, not quite to that extent, not quite as powerful as that, but it had that same kind of feeling. So yeah, The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. I'm glad it's finally out of my TBR box and on my bookshelves. So yeah, let me know if you've read this, let me know what you thought of it. It's only like, what is it, like 300 pages long, so it's really quite short. So yeah, worth a go, I'd say. So the first book that I picked up, or one of the first books that I picked up in January, was Giovanni Boccaccio's Mrs. Rosy and the Priest. So this is part of the little Penguin Black Classics books that Mark got me for my birthday at the end of December, and it was really interesting. So this says bawdy tales of pimps, cuckolds, lovers and clever women from the 14th century Florentine masterpiece, the Decameron. So this is a collection of very short stories around the 14th century, Italian 14th century, which I don't know that much about, but it was so interesting. Some of these stories are so sexist and misogynistic that you really have to remember, you have to enjoy them, I think, thoroughly. You have to remember the time period in which they're written and the context in which they're written. Some of it's a bit jarring when you hear about the treatment of women in these short stories, but if you remember the context and the time period of which it's written, then the stories are actually really great stories, and really interesting. And I love these little Penguin Black Classics as like little palate cleansers in between novels. They really help to kind of get the last novel out of my head, ready for a new novel. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to read more of these little Penguin Black Classics. I've got 80 odd of them to get through this year. Christ alive! So yeah, really looking forward to reading more of these little Penguin Black Classics. So yeah, Giovanni Boccaccio's Mrs. Rosy and the Priest. So yeah, it's from the Florentine masterpiece, the Decameron. So has anyone read the Decameron? What's that like? If I liked this, will I like the Decameron? let me know. So, the next book that I'm going to talk in your ears about today is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So, I won't talk too much about this because I'm going to do a separate video on this. For anyone who doesn't know, I am running a little reading challenge, read-along type thing called Harry Potter 2020, and I am basically I've never read the Harry Potter series before in my life. I've read the films, I've watched the films, but I've never read the books. And I don't know why. I don't know why I've never read the books. So this year is my chance to read the books, and I'm reading one every month from January until July, until I finish the series. So this is the first one that I read in January, The Philosopher's Stone. So yeah, I'll link my Harry Potter 2020 announcement video down below in case you want to check that out and join in. So yeah, I'll talk about this in a separate video. By the way, I'm terribly sorry if you can hear wind all around me. It is very windy today. There's some kind of storm in the UK today, and it's blowing down fences and ripping tiles off ceilings. So it's all a bit dramatic, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyway, the next book that I want to talk about is a book that I've been really looking forward to for such a long time. And well, I say such a long time, a month since I realised it was coming out. And that is The Starless See by Erin Morgenstern. So I know that quite a few people want to read this, so skip ahead a few minutes until you see me hold up the next book. If you don't want to hear my thoughts on this, if you want to go into this completely blind, I can't guarantee that I'm not going to give any spoilers. So yeah, if you want to read this and you don't want to hear my thoughts on it before you've read it, then skip forward a couple of minutes till you see me hold up the next book. Ready? Go! Okay, have they gone? This book was a pile of crap. I'm sorry. it really frustrated me. This book had so much possibilities, so much potential, so much going for it, but it was completely wasted by the utter lack of narrative and plot and just any kind of decent structure that made me want to read on. This book has so much going for it in terms of there is this whole world created, this underground library, this whole alternative world that people just don't know about, where stories are kept safe. There's acolytes, there's guardians, there's lots of different kind of sects of people who all have different responsibilities, and all of this kind of stuff is all of the rules and laws and themes and ideas of this world are created right at the beginning of this novel, but then it just goes nowhere and does nothing of any warrant or interest for me. I was kind of reading it thinking, okay, soon we're going to get to the point where it kind of fits together and we're going to go on a quest. We're going to go on some kind of epic quest, and we're going to be rooting for Zachary Rawlins, who's the kind of protagonist in this book, who is dragged down into this underground library world full of stories and books in order to do something, but you never really understand what it is he's there to do, and you don't really understand what the other characters are there for, or what's happening in that world, or what the resolution is. There's no desire. You're never thinking, come on Zachary, you can do this, because you don't know what it is that he's supposed to be doing. He just flicks around doing different things, and then it kind of just ends. So yeah, I was so disappointed with this book. I know from looking on Goodreads that some people love it, some people hate it. I was so disappointed. It could have been brilliant, but instead for me I put it down as a 3-star read to begin with on Goodreads, and then the next day, the more I thought about it, I had to go on and reduce it to a 2-star, just because it was such a wasted opportunity. I cannot believe in some way that this got past the editors. Yeah, I really was disappointed with this book, although I do know that some people love it, so that is just my opinion. So yeah, if you are still thinking about reading this book, then do pick it up, because you may well enjoy it. I really didn't. The next book that I want to talk about was sent to me by a very lovely friend of mine, and it's the first piece of Japanese translated fiction that I've read, and that is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. So this follows the story of it kind of follows 3 separate stories really, but it all centres around this coffee shop. And in this coffee shop there is a seat, a very particular seat, where a woman sits all day, every day, apart from a small period of the day where she gets up to use the toilet. And in that period of the day, you can sit in that chair and travel back in time. There are certain rules around traveling back in time, so you can only travel back in time and meet people that have been in that coffee shop, and you have to come back from the past before the coffee that you have in your hand gets cold. So this was really, really interesting. It's a great kind of idea for a set of different stories that all kind of tie together. And yeah, I found it really interesting. I haven't read that much translated fiction before, especially Japanese translated fiction. I haven't really read much of that at all. I think I'll definitely read more, and I'll probably definitely read more by this author. It was quite short as well, so it didn't take me that long to get through. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Give it a go if you fancy. The next book that I want to talk about is a book that I picked up a couple of weekends ago. Well, actually, I didn't pick it up. Simon from Savage Reads. I met up with him in Cambridge, and we had a bloody lovely day walking around Cambridge, going book shopping, looking at the sites and having a wonderful time. And we did a video where I gave him a voucher that I had for Waterstones that I'd got for my birthday. And I said to him, go wild, pick out the books that you think I should read. And this is one of I'll link that video down below, and this is one of the books that he picked out for me, and I'm so glad that he did. It is Mr. Loverman by Bernardine Evaristo. So a lot of you will know Bernardine Evaristo because she won the Booker Prize this year along with, I was going to say Hillary Clinton. What's her name? Margaret Atwood. What the hell do I think it was Hillary Clinton? She won the Booker Prize with Margaret Atwood this year for her novel Girl, Woman, Other, which I know a lot of people on BookTube have read and absolutely adored. Simon, I think it was one of his favourite books, if not his favourite book of last year, and I think that's the reason why he picked this out for me to read. This follows the story of a gentleman who lives in London, modern day London, and you kind of look back on his life with his wife and his daughters, and also his lover, his male lover that he has had since he was 14 years old. And it's just incredible. It was so moving, and it was so interesting, and looked at a subsection of LGBT culture and history that I'd never really looked into before. It was just utterly brilliant, and I tore through this because I just wanted to keep reading and keep reading and keep reading. One thing that I love about this is the relationship between the main character, I can't remember his name, Barry. One thing I loved about this is Barry's relationship with his wife, his long-term wife, and the mother of his two daughters. You go along thinking, oh, poor Barry, he's having to lead this double life, being married to this woman when really he's gay, but also he's such a flawed character. He doesn't treat his wife well, and she doesn't really treat him well, and it's very realistic. There's no kind of clear-cut good and bad in this book. It's a real hodgepodge mix of grey areas of positivity and negativity around these characters, and you're never really on the side of Barry, but you're never really on anyone's side. You're just a complete outsider looking in, but also completely enveloped in this world that they're living in. And he's such a flawed character that it just makes it so realistic. Oh, I just absolutely love this. I cannot wait to read more of Bernardine Evaristo's work. She's just utterly brilliant. And the one thing I found a bit tricky about this is I felt her dialogue was a little bit unrealistic in this book sometimes, the way she writes dialogue, but other than that, it was just amazing and just so, brilliant. Really, really, really enjoyed this. I'm so glad Simon picked it out for me, and I cannot wait to read more by her. Now then, the last book that I want to talk about, which I read in January, is this book here, what is called Elegant Etiquette in the 19th Century by Mallory James. So Mark saw this for me and I saw it initially on Katie's channel over at Books and Things, and he got it for me for my birthday. So I loved this kind of subject matter. I'm obsessed with anything Victorian, and also I'm obsessed with anything Georgian, sort of in the kind of mid to late 18th century. So yeah, this was just so interesting, and it actually gave I think it will really help me with my reading of Victorian fiction, Victorian literature, because it gives some real context as to some of the decisions that characters make in those novels, and it gives some context as to the importance of some things. So you think, God, why are all Victorian novels about marriage and, you know, making a good marriage and things like that? But, or, you know, why are people so offended by certain things in Victorian novels? You know, it's not that bad what they've done, but this really puts things into context and kind of stresses the importance of morality in the Victorian age. And I just found it such a lovely, cozy, wonderful read. I am desperate to live my life as some kind of aristocratic Victorian woman, and this took me right there. I just loved it. So yeah, thank you, Katie at Books and Things, for kind of recommending this book in one of your videos. I'm so glad that I saw it. I'm so glad Mark saw it and decided to get me this for my birthday. Thanks, Mark! So there you have it. That's me January wrap up. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've had a great January reading month. I'll be back in a couple of days with my Harry Potter 2020 video on the Philosopher's Stone. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.